might be the dumbest people in the world. I don't know. It's a toss-up. The Democrats might be dumber. I'm not 100% sure. Okay? There's so much news today, and I was really not sure about the thumbnail because it's kind of blunt, but it's the best I could come up with. I just did dummies. We're going to get into the Iran situation. There's so much news. I got sheets all over the place. I got my new wireless mic, trying out the sound. Let me know how it sounds. All right, there's the Ordinary American. I'm your host, Paul Sarkis. Trump is doing what Trump does. Okay, we're gonna first go to a little domestic stuff because I love this. I think this is amazing. Trump has made a very big deal of what he has been able to do with the reflecting pool, the giant pool in front of the Washington Monument. Okay, so here is what he does today. He ends up inviting the guys that worked on it to the White House.
Now, Mr. President, if I have you sign the OU hat, would you say boo or suit?
I'll do it. How is your football team?
It's going to be great.
Do they have a good quarterback? Yes, well, you need a quarterback in that.
I really appreciate it.
So the two teams are good?
All right. I just love that. I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen a lot of the working guys that do those things be invited to the White House. That's a thrill. Who wouldn't love that? They're getting the hats. I'm sure they're getting pens and other things. Awesome. Letting more ordinary Americans into the White House to see what it's like. Just an example of who Trump is. He goes to the Knicks game the other night, and everybody on the left wants to give him a bunch of poop about it. And Hakeem Jeffries, that loser, he screams and says, oh, he's not a real fan. And then social media lights up with streams of pictures and videos going back decades of him being at the Knicks games. Okay? He's an ordinary guy. He loves sports. He's having the UFC. He brings the workers in. He can hang out with them. There's no Democrat who can do this. I just wanted to show that as we get the show started. Now, look, we got to get to the Iran stuff here in a second, but this just came up, and I'm gonna do it because it ties into one of the major issues that we talk about and that's happening. So Trump just did, or the administration just did an executive order, and they're implementing a rule where illegals essentially can't get taxpayer money for housing. Now, we were told this wasn't happening, but they can't take it away if it wasn't happening. So it was happening, and we've been lied to. So just listen to this, and then we'll talk about it.
Help and affordable housing. It's a loophole that gives families with illegal immigrants federal housing.
A loophole. It was on purpose. A loophole. It wasn't a loophole. The elected class did it on purpose. Trump is closing it.
That could go to U.S. citizens. It doesn't. Secretary Turner says he will close that loophole and free up HUD funding to help American families in need. And according to HUD data, just to give you an example, nearly 200,000 tenants have not proven they qualify for the government assistance that they are getting. And the point that you'll hear the secretary make is they're not even asked to qualify whether or not they're U.S. citizens in this country. They don't have to show anything. They just show up with their relatives and on the sneak and fraud stay in that housing that American citizens should get.
Unbelievable.
And there are some 24,000 illegals, or fraudsters, as I call them, taking up thousands of homes. In focus with me now, Scott Turner.
All right, Scott Turner, great. Thrilled he's there, doing a great job, but we're gonna move on because these are the facts. Okay, 24,000 illegals are getting our tax dollars to go and buy and lease housing. So what does that do? Well, first of all, the elected class is lying to us because they told us that wasn't happening. It's happening. So they steal our money through taxes. They don't tell us where it goes. That reminds me of taxation without representation. They then send it to illegals, essentially telling illegals from around the world, come here and we'll give you free housing. It's a bribe to get them to get on voter rolls and do things for the Democrats. So they steal our money, taxes, give it to illegals, lie to us. Now, what do they do at the same time? Parallel courses is they inflate away, they print more money, which drives the purchasing power of the dollars we do get to keep down. Then, because those illegals have our dollars stolen from us and they're in the same markets we are trying to buy houses, we have to pay more for housing with our deflated, less powerful purchasing dollars that the elected class inflated. It is like, not only are we getting it from the teeth and from the back of the head, we're getting it in the sides too. The elected class, everywhere you look, there's another scam. They're stealing from us. We did a whole episode on it. I really don't understand the morality of American citizens having to pay any taxes at this point, where we find out there are so many fraud scams. We haven't even gone into Minnesota. That might be for another day. Obviously, we've talked about California. This right here is, it hits, we're told often like there's an affordable housing crisis. No, there's a stealing our dollars, distorting the housing market with illegals crisis. Let's get rid of them first, and then let's see what the housing market really looks like. 24,000, first of all, you start to take away these incentives, obviously fewer of them are going to bother to come here, and many of them who are getting that are going to go home because they don't get that free our money again. So that's one big benefit. The second is we will see a change in the housing prices in the markets where these people are clustered. Why? Because there'll be fewer people in the supply and demand curve, and there'll be fewer dollars. So then our dollars will be able to have a fair shot at an undistorted market. That does not, unfortunately, yet deal with the fact that they're still stealing our money through taxes. I hope I'm going to try to get towards the end. We have a piece about how the Trump tax cuts have largely been benefiting people earning under $200,000 a year, which we were told was not the case, but is the case. We need to get rid of all federal taxes on citizens. Not only is it payback for the trillions a year that have been stolen from us for decades, but it will also make the economy roar. We will always be better stewards with our money than the government. Okay, this is just, it just makes you want to pull your hair out. The elected, by the way, this is the elected class. This is not just the Democrats. These are the rhinos too. They all knew about this stuff. Okay, so even though the Democrats who put in a Nazi tattoo, Hamas-loving communist, inappropriate in a public bathroom dude in Maine, they are also stealing our money here. This is who you're voting for, the Democrats. So if you're voting for a Democrat, remember, one of the premises of this show, one of the reasons why we started was trying to get as many people away from the Democrat Party. Why? Because it's a leftist party that is lying to you and stealing your money and stealing our money. And if you're a wealthy person who's just been throwing money at all the problems the Democrats put in your place, most of us can't do that. So I always say that voting for Democrats is like breaking into jail, and you break other people into jail. You can pay your way out. The rest of us can't. This is another example. Just unbelievable. All right, we got just loads of other things here. All right, I do want to get to Iran for a second. I was going to play. Well, let me roll the film back. Last night, the U.S. bombed the poop out of the Iranians again. As you know, if you've been watching the show, I have a very close friend over in UAE. Ned is his code name. His real name's something else. Some of you might know who he is. He's in the oil and gas business, been there his whole adult life, basically, and he monitors all the comings and goings because it's important for his business. So he and I talk often. He said a couple of things. One, not that big a deal, not different than usual. Most of it was Kuwait was getting bombed by the Iranians and Bahrain and the Jordanians, but the Jordanians shot down all theirs. There was a few that got through, I think, to Kuwait. By the way, I can say that because I'm not there, but even one getting through is a big deal. But Ned's point was, it seems like it's a little less or not as severe as before, my interpretation, because we've degraded their ability over time. Now, the title of the show is the IRGC has got to be the Dummies of the Year. Why? because these total buffoons, or if you're an old cartoon fan, an ultramaroon, these ultramaroons, these guys could have made a deal with Trump a long time ago and kept their crypto and their billions and their villas and whatever, and gone off and lived, relatively safe lives. Okay? They couldn't do that. Ned has told me from the beginning, these people are inbred, it's in their DNA, they can't make smart decisions, they're liars, cheaters, and thieves, and they are, and I guess, just helpless, which is turning out to be true, because they're winding up as bone dust, for starters, and then every time Trump keeps on trying to say, hey, do a deal, they're so dumb, they can't figure out who's their friend right now. They look at Trump and think they're against Trump. They're not against Trump. Trump's their best ally. What the great Ned has been telling me all along is everyone else in the Gulf wants all of the IRGC to be bone dust. They want nothing left of them. And it's Trump who's trying to say, we got them where we want them, let's make a deal. So the IRGC can't see that Trump is their savior. I think that's not hyperbole. I think he could save their lives by stopping the bombing. But if he's still alive, the legless gay Ayatollah can't seem to make a decent decision. And instead, what's happening is big time Scotty Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, totally impressive, love this guy, big time. He is snatching their crypto, snatching their villas, whatever he said the other day, he's taking all of their stuff away. So they're winding up with nothing, and they're going to get bombed into the Stone Age. That's pretty dumb. And by the way, Trump's keeping Israel on a leash. What if they get released? The Iranian, the IRGC should remember, the Israelis were the ones who were able to get into their nuclear bunkers, steal all their documents without them knowing about it, plant a bomb in a wall in some kind of a residence behind IRGC strongholds and blow it up on command, do the beeper stuff with Hamas. I mean, Trump is the IRGC's best friend. We're going to see how it goes. There was some inflation data coming out. I don't have it up, but other than energy, which is a big deal because everything requires energy. But other than energy, the inflation wasn't bad. I think it was like 2.8%. And if you look at truflation, I think it's below 2. Okay. Now, I will say my personal experience at the grocery store is that groceries are more expensive, particularly meat. If we get time, we'll talk at the end about that screwworm parasite that we're being told is a big deal. All right. Dummies of the year. Total and complete dummies. I cannot, I really, honestly, my brain doesn't work that way because I'm not suicidal, I guess. But they buy into the nonsense cult of Islam, and that's what they're doing. And I love when Trump puts out a message. He did a Truth Social earlier, and always put something like praise to Allah, totally mocking them. All right, let's see how it goes. He says again, we're close to a deal. I'm a little, I guess I'm a little dull. I'm like if you ever watch the Marathon Man, when Zell drills through Dustin Hoffman's front tooth, and he says, "Oh, that nerve's too dull now. We need a fresh one." Or actually, I think he talks out about the one in the back, and then he drills through the front. My nerve endings around whether there's a deal are kind of dull right now. I want a deal. I trust in Trump. Think he's going to get a deal. But boy, is it taking a long time. And it's too bad because a lot of these IRGC people are dying. And by the way, their families are probably dying too. And that doesn't need to happen. All right, we're going to move on. So LA, California, the corrupt, dirty elections. All right, total corruption. We've talked about it a lot. The left keeps on screaming, there's no evidence, there's no evidence. And I've said before, I don't think these people have bothered to study a little vocabulary recently. Evidence is different than a metaphysical, God-declared conclusion. Those are two different things. Evidence is what gets an investigation going or forwards an investigation. I have said, that's by the way, the great Lola's here sucking wind because she's so hot. Okay. I have said that unlimited mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, and there's about 20 of these things, but the third one, I can't remember what it was. Oh, endless count, like you can count forever. Those alone are evidence that there could be cheating. How can I say that? Because the New York Times said it, because Jimmy Carter said it. Those are lefties. Those are not Trump supporters. Those are not MAGA people. Those are not conservatives. In 2012, we played the article that the great Dan Bongino cites all the time by Adam Liptacker, I think his name is. And it says specifically that mail-in ballots are where the fraud is. More mail-in ballots, more fraud. That's what they say. I've posted it before. You can go on my X, like, subscribe, and follow, and it should be in there, and I'll probably put a new link into it tonight. That is evidence. Why was the New York Times doing that? Because at the time, mail-in ballots, which were legitimate mail-in ballots that were coming from the military, largely from overseas, were yielding towards the Republican. Now they found a way to weaponize it and corrupt it, which they did. All right, that's part of it. But there's way more corruption. Way more corruption. I'm going to play this next. The great James O'Keefe has found his videos. I said I thought he was probably working on some of this stuff. He's been working on this stuff. He's been out there getting videos of people. There have been loads of people who are getting caught, homeless people and others, getting homeless people registered. And let me just freeze frame right for a second here. This is a woman who got charged. You can see that on there. We're going to get to that in a second. Part of the problem in California is the entire legal apparatus, so the government, is designed with like, it's like this. I want to get as many people on the voter rolls as possible. So there's like 10 avenues that you can get registered to vote. You get a license at the DMV, you're registered to vote. Okay, so all the illegals get licenses. I'm sure if you get housing vouchers, or if you get any money from the government, which they all do, or insurance, they get registered to vote. It's register, register, register. That should not be the case. It should be the opposite. Only American citizens should be able to vote. Save America Act. We'll touch on that. Thune the traitor. All right, but this is more evidence. Listen to this.
64-year-old Brenda Armstrong would go down to Annika. Federal prosecutors say she would go down to Skid Row, find homeless people, get them registered to vote. About $2 to $3 a pop is what she would pay them, so then they could sign her petition.
The petitioner, Brenda Brown, hands cash money to the homeless person, not only for signing the California ballot initiative, but also as payment for them to register to vote.
Now, because you haven't registered, I need to register you so I can get paid too. I'm paying you guys, I need to get paid. Come on.
That is a federal felony. And it didn't just happen once. It happened over and over and over again. We personally witnessed and covertly filmed this happening at least 28 times over the span of our investigation. And that is just in Los Angeles.
Sometimes even suggesting her former homes and addresses to claim as their own.
Unbelievable.
Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon writes, false registrations undermine America's faith in elections, even more so when payoffs are involved. This Department of Justice is committed to ensuring that all U.S. elections are fair and free from illegal meddling so that Americans can accept the results with confidence. And Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says such crackdowns on illegal registration and voting schemes is long overdue.
Okay. By the way, Harmeet Dillon, superstar, doing tremendous things for the American people. That is evidence, and a lot of it. And yes, Lola agrees. Okay, and there is more evidence. I'm going to go back. By the way, I couldn't even keep up with how many videos of various homeless people who were saying we got paid to vote or to register to vote. And how they were paid to fill out the forms. All right. This is another thing I wanted to show. This has been going around for a couple of days. People, I think, are missing the main point of this. They're saying, oh, look, so this green line is Rahman's votes over time. The blue line is Bass's, and the red line is Spencer Pratt's. And they were saying, oh, this makes perfect sense. Democrats are late voters. That's not what this says. This says that Rahman voters are late voters. As time went on, more Rahman votes came in. Actually, Bass's votes went down. So we're supposed to believe that Democrat voters that voted for Bass were somehow more like the Spencer Pratt voters who voted early and less later. But all the Democrats who voted for Rahman, somehow they're late voters. This is evidence. This may not be a conclusion, but it is evidence of cheating. That probably doesn't really work. I think I shared a few weeks ago, one of the businesses I was in was the parimutuel racing business, horse racing and dog racing. And before you had fancy analytics, you had to have a sense of whether there was any cheating going on. And so you had sort of eyeball tells. One of the things was that if on any particular night or day, if there's two performances, one in the morning, one in the night, or week, you wanted to look for trends. One of the trends you looked for is a third of the time the favorites should win. If a third of the time the favorites are winning, most likely there's no shenanigans. That's called formful racing. It just means that it doesn't mean that there's no cheating. It just means that they aren't doing it in an obvious way. So it's like a first check. This graph, this is like a first check. Obviously, you have to check into this. This would be like, 1% of the favorites winning. Okay? The reason why if you were trying to rig the race, you can't make a ton of money with the favorites. So you want the underdogs to win, that better odds. So you watch that. And if less than a third of the time the favorites are winning in parimutuel racing, you think, whoa, wait a second. That's what this shows us. Okay? That is what this shows us. There's tons and tons and tons of evidence of corruption. Here's some more evidence. Here's some more evidence. This has been talked about a lot, and it should be. I'm putting it up because we all need to remember and focus on it because they cheat all the time. Where is it? Senate Bill 73 was signed into law May 27th. Excuse me. When was that? That was recent, by Gavin Newsom, days before California's election. The law bans mail-in ballot observers, people watching ballots being processed, from contesting the validity of a signature. Excuse me? That sounds like they legalized corruption. Why would they ban an observer and watching and objecting to a signature? Two problems with that. One, if there are no observers, you get back to single party rule. What have I said about my experience working the polls in LA? Provisional ballots back in those days. Everyone had to fill out a provisional ballot that they could get to fill out a provisional ballot because they went downtown and the humans opened up the envelope, saw who voted for what, and decided whether it was a legitimate ballot. All right? That's what this is. If you don't have people watching, you get single party rule. That's obviously that there's going to be fraud. That's the first thing. So the law bans mail-in ballot observers. Like, you can't observe from contesting the validity of a signature. What does that imply? Oh, there's humans deciding whether a signature is good. We've been getting, you can see all over social media, there's tons of people who are writing in and saying, I was a Pratt voter and my ballot, I'm told, was rejected, and they don't tell me why. Why? Because some human is watching it and they're getting rid of it. It was obviously corrupted. Tons of evidence. Tons of evidence. If you're me, it's not just evidence, it's declaratory. It was fraud. Okay? Obviously. All of these things don't align. And I played it the other day. There was this unfortunately broken-minded woman who's saying that, oh no, the guy in Maine, Plattner, that Nazi tattoo, I heard from a friend who heard from a friend who heard from an uncle or a cousin that that's not really a Nazi tattoo. So I believe them. And then the reporter said, what if the person was wearing an Israeli tattoo? Oh, They believe in genocide, so I would be against them. Do you see the uncuriousness on one side? Oh, I believed like 27 people who told me a story, versus I've come to a conclusion right away on that's a distortion of reality, by the way. She's exactly got a dyslexic brain. The Israelis are not into genocide. They're into defense of themselves. And the Nazi tattoo guy, that's who the Democrats are putting up. Anyways, mental gymnastics. So there's obviously corruption and all of this screeching. If you find yourself screeching that there is no corruption, you're probably a Democrat and you need help. You need to go buy a MAGA hat and put it on and keep it on for like a day, and hopefully that will get into you. Or you need to watch this show on a constant loop, okay? Or any other of the great conservative shows, Vince Colanese or Bongino or any of them, Crowder, put them all on and just like Clockwork Orange, keep the eyeballs open because you're sick, okay? You're sick. The Democrats have been lying to you. I'm sorry that you believed it. I'm sorry that your dad or your mom or however you came to vote for Democrats, but they lied to you. Trump invites the pool guys into the Oval Office because he's interested and wants to give benefits to the ordinary American, the name of the show, okay? You've been told that's not true, but it is. But it is. And we're going to get now to the tax situation. Let's see if I can find this one. There it is. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Trump taxes. Trump is trying to get rid of all taxes. I believe he's going to come up with some kind of announcement before the midterms around taxes. I don't know what it will be, but that's my sense. Okay. This is an article, new analysis. The Working Families Tax Cuts delivers the largest share of tax relief to American families and workers. First of all, is that up there? Okay, great. We can see that. All right. Just read a little bit here. American families and workers are overwhelmingly benefited from the Working Families Tax Cuts, receiving the largest share of the historic tax relief delivered this past filing season. This is from big time Scotty Bessent. Okay, under President Trump, our federal tax code and system reflect the American people's mandate to reject policies that punish success with tax hikes and embrace those that restore fairness, reward work, respect hard-earned paychecks, and reignite the American dream. By the way, that's exactly what's happening with that first story about the housing money that's going to the illegals that we're now stopping. What that is doing is it is stopping something that's the opposite of this, okay? That punishes work because it makes it harder for us to buy a house. It does not respect the hard-earned paychecks because they deflate our dollars, they give it to illegals, they steal our money, and then it's more expensive for us to buy homes. And it does not ignite the American dream. It makes it worse, okay? Now, let's get into where are the stats. They're down here. All right. Filers earning between $100,000 and $200,000 who claimed one of President Trump's signature tax cuts received an average tax cut of over $1,250. Nearly 70% of filers receiving a tax cut earned less than $100,000. Okay? So all the nonsense about Trump's proposals only go to help the billionaire are nonsense. Now, if you're me, I want the tax cuts to help everybody because I want there to be no federal taxes. We've seen enough stolen. If we get rid of the theft through tariffs and other things, we can have plenty. And by the way, maybe it's no more tax on income, and all it is a national sales tax. But once we get rid of this theft and fraud, and J.D. Vance with the fraud squad has been going to town, okay, we're going to not need taxes. But while we do have them, most of these tax cuts are going to people who make less and not more money. Filers earning between $50,000 and $100,000 who claimed one of President Trump's signature tax cuts received an average tax cut that is over $815. No tax on tips. Over 7.5 million filers have claimed no tax on tips. How awesome is that? I saw videos during tax season which showed that many people didn't even know that that existed because they're not told that in those news sources because those people don't want the ordinary American to know that. No tax on Social Security. Yes, I know it has a limit, but it's something. It's better than it was before. 90% of filers claiming no tax on tips deducted had income under 100,000. 99,000 of filers had under 200,000. Here's the no overtime one. Over 29 million filers have claimed no tax on overtime with an average deduction of $3,100. That is awesome. 75% of filers make under 100,000 who are taking the no tax on overtime. 96% are under 200,000. How great is that? By the way, a lot of cops, a lot of firemen, a lot of construction workers. That is awesome. That is Trump. That's the guy at the beginning who has the workmen in the Oval Office. Okay? Contrast that with the Democrats electing the guy from Maine with the Nazi tattoo. Okay? Or Bernie Sanders screeching about how the billionaires and millionaires are making too much money as he hops on his private jet for another trip around the world. Okay? This is what's happening when you get rid of taxes. People get benefits. Now, part of why the economy is doing well is because the more money that we have to keep of our own, the better the economy is, because each one of us is a better steward of our money than the government is. Just a fact. Okay? Here's one. The no tax on car loan interest. Over 1.4 million filers claimed it. Okay? The average deduction was $1,800. That's spectacular. Okay, where's the last one? That might be, the child tax credit, 40 million. Okay? You get the point. The point is that the tax cuts are helping the people making under 200,000 and under 100,000 way more than it's helping the people who are making more than that. That is awesome. We love to see that. Just tremendous. Look, once we get through this Iran thing, the Trump economy, I believe, is going to boom. I do. I think it's going to boom. All right. I want to go back, watching the clock, but I want to go back and I want to talk about the Save America Act, because obviously without a fair election, we get California. I now believe that California would not be a blue state if it weren't for the corruption. I believe when I look at it and I see mostly red except San Francisco and Los Angeles and some of San Diego, I think to myself, well, where is the population leaving from? They're leaving from San Francisco and Los Angeles. Side note, I mentioned the other day that San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, all three voted against a tax increase. Oh, guess what? When the when the election ballots were starting to be counted, the people in LA, you'll be happy to know, you all voted for a higher sales tax. Evidence of fraud. I don't believe it. If that is really how the people of LA see the world, is that the government doesn't have enough of your money, then you guys are in big trouble. All right. All right. So I want to put this on. Hold on. Let's get that up. Save America Act. We need free and fair elections. We do not have those right now. One of the reasons we do not have those is because John Thune in the Senate is blocking it. Thune in this is the great C3, by the way. Go give him a like, a subscribe, a follow. Awesome. I don't know him. It might not even be a him. I don't know what his pronouns are. I'd bet his pronouns are MAGA. All right. Thune and the GOP Senate are using to stop Trump. Parliamentarian to stop the agenda. We talked about that yesterday. Zombie filibuster to stop securing elections. We talked about that. Blue slip tradition to stop filling judicial positions. Pro forma session, we've talked about that. Pro forma sessions to stop making recess appointments. We've talked about that. Then what does this all get to? Yeah, they're traitors. He's right. I say that a lot. What's the bigger issue? The bigger issue is that the founding fathers didn't say that one senator from South Dakota can stop the entire president's agenda, blocking 77 million people's votes. We voted for Trump. We voted for his agenda. He wasn't vague on it. One senator is blocking that. This traitor Thune. And he's blocking because he hates Trump more than he likes America. And he wants it to go back to the way things were. And he thinks, let's just get rid of this guy, wait him out, and then we'll get back to business as usual. Okay, that's not how the founders designed the system. When the founders designed the system, it was designed that the state legislatures appoint the senators, not popular vote. Why? It wasn't because the founders didn't think of that. They thought of that, but they understood power and how power gets aggregated and it's centralized. And they said the state houses around the country are much more responsive to the people because they're in and around the people all the time. The people in Washington will be removed. It wasn't Washington at the time, but the people at the federal government level would be removed from the states. So the state legislatures appoint and they can pull them back. Was there corruption back then? Sure, there was. But this has been a failure. The 17th Amendment, 1913, was a failure. John Thune now controls the entire agenda for the 77 million people who voted for Trump. He can't get his judicial positions through. He can't get any of his other nominees through. This parliamentary idiot is stopping the agenda. That's another unelected official that it gets a say. We don't get the Save America Act. None of this was how it was designed. In the Constitution, the language is advise and consent. That does not say control and prevent. Advise and consent is weak. You can advise, and then you'll consent, because the president has the power. The people's house controls the purse. That's important. If we repeal the 17th Amendment, by the way, that one change would be a massive change to how things are done in Washington. One of the things the founders knew is that if you centralize corruption, put all of the people from the Senate in one building who had this kind of power, all you have to do is go to one place to do corruption, which is what Washington is. Decentralized power. They didn't know it, but the founders were fans of Bitcoin. Yeah, decentralization. All right. All right, where are we? We got one more. I wanted to go back and do a little. I can't find it. That's too bad. All right. We're being told that there is a parasite called the screwworm. And we're told that the screwworm is, I can't find it, darn. And we're told that the screwworm is really messing up our beef. And I believe that it is. But you won't be surprised to know if you follow the show, ivermectin gets rid of the screwworm. So use ivermectin. We will not let the screwworm get the best of our cattle population. Why? Because we have tools like ivermectin. And if you're a human, get yourself some ivermectin. I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. But they are finding out more and more every day the benefits of ivermectin on humans. Okay? Do it. Get it. Not medical advice. Don't listen to me. I just have a strong opinion. I love my flag, my God, and my family. But I do it. I get it for my family. Okay? There are remedies out there. You do not have to be beholden to the elected class or what the leftists tell you on CNN or CNBC or any of these other leftist hellholes. Okay? All right, one more thing on the medical. Statins, everybody's been told for years that statins are so important and that you have to have statins, and the statins will lower the blood pressure and lower the cholesterol level. Not, oh, by the way, I just found the screwworm thing, but I'm not going to put it up. We'll move past it. Okay? There's a thing called nanokinase. It comes from, I'm drawing a blank now, soy, something with soy. Nanokinase, okay? And it reduces plaque in the arteries. Statins cause huge problems. The great Cheryl Atkinson did reports long time ago. They're in my thread on how awful statins are for people. Doctors prescribe them. They say they prescribe them because they know they work. That's not true. They prescribe them largely because they get paid to prescribe them. Okay? Look for alternatives. If when you start taking statins, you have things like pain in your legs and other things, get off of them. Another little known fact is that a cholesterol level of 350 used to be completely normal. They've been lying to us. Totally and completely lying. All right. There was one other thing that I wanted to put up because it's an awesome thing that gets to Trump and MAGA. Just when everybody thought somebody forgot about it, U.S. expects to finish the wall along the Mexican border late in 2027. So again, we were told you cannot build a wall across the border. And yes, we can. Okay? Every time a Democrat or an elected class person tells you we can't do something, your immediate thought should be, yes, we can, because they're lying. This is one of the reasons why the illegal immigration has slowed to next to nothing or almost nothing. Because if a wall is put up and it's easier to monitor, then you can put your resources other places. Without the illegals, the Democrats don't have their fake voters we just showed you in LA. They don't have the place for the nonprofits who steal our money and funnel it through to Democrats to fake that they're helping people. They don't have any of the fraud with the homeless situation, with the hospice or any of these other deals. None of it. Illegals, problem. Trump's taking care of business. All right. Listen, let me know if the wireless mic, where is it? Right there, worked today. The Ordinary American at proton.me, on X, The Ord American. Like, subscribe, and follow. Make some comments. Pass it around. It helps with the algorithm. We're trying to help in advance of the midterms, but forever, to stop people to stop voting for Democrats. They are lying to you. You've been told that Trump is a liar. He is not. He is not. They are the liar. Trump is the guy that invites the workmen into the Oval Office. That's who Trump is. Okay? First of all, I never saw Obama or Biden or anybody else fix the reflecting pool. Trump got it fixed. I haven't been there, but I'm told Washington, D.C. looks amazing. And then he invites the workmen into the Oval Office. Just awesome. Okay? We're going to be back here tomorrow. We do want to do another. Let us know if you watched it, if you liked the film review over Promethean Action. They're just putting out so much good material that I think I'm going to do another one. But let me know what you think. All right, we'll be back here tomorrow at 2. Until then, as the great Father Mike Schmidt says, I'm praying